It is.
Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While, a show in which I chat with really cool people about interesting topics to spark, inspire, and motivate both personal and professional change. And today's topic is how to lead the life you came here to live. And this conversation is worth your while because you feel an itch and you can't seem to scratch it, knowing that there's something more for you, and you have the inkling that you might be the key. And you know what? You're right. There is more to life, and it is within your power to discover what's possible and to make it happen. Because we only have now, and you're all done feeling unfulfilled and not connected. And because you're finally done hoping and waiting for someone or something else to change. And you've had enough of depleting your energy, and you want to get on to using your energy to live the life that you came here for, the life for you. So let's start with some introductions. I'm Linda Bucher, and my gift is lighting the way for those who are excited about giving their gifts to the world. And I love helping smart, passionate leaders to discover their path, to balance their lives, and to align their energy and gifts so that they can make their mark on the world. I'm an authentic, heart centered master coach, a mindset mentor, a transformational speaker, a show host, an author, and an MBA because I refuse to choose. And I'd love to work with you if you know that you have important gifts to share with the world and you didn't come this far to get only this far, because it is time to make a difference. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by Lisa Aire of VISTA Kabyle LLC. And Lisa's passion and purpose is the health and well being of the planet. And that, she tells me, starts with the health and well being of our people, of humanity, of you. So, hi, Lisa. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Linda. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about who you serve and what you do, and why this topic is worth your while to speak to me with me today? Blah.
Sure. I'm here, like I say, I love our planet. Um, and I'm very dedicated to its health and well-being. And many years ago, when I started sort of, running around the world, putting band-aids on everything, save the whales, save the Amazon, and I finally just paused for a second. I said, well, what is creating this? And for me, uh, what I observed is what was creating it was a lack of human consciousness.
Mm,
So I thought, well, I'm going to put my energy to opening that consciousness up to its highest level. Because when we operate on that level, then we all operate in service to every living thing on this planet. And that's a world that I would like to live in. So that's where I put my focus and my dedication. So I I serve the people that are ready, that they are ready for the expansion of and the access to their greatest level of consciousness, and to live life and create with life from that place.
mm.
It's a very different place. So
Ah,
that's what I'm here to do.
beautiful. I absolutely love that. It's beautiful to share with people your why. And I know you're speaking from experience, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So let's start with this itch. And you and I both have been in this place where we felt this itch and we couldn't seem to scratch it, and we could feel there was something more for us, and we had this inkling that we were the key. But I know for me, I didn't act on it when I began to feel it. And so I'm wondering if you had that same experience. And if so, why do you think that we don't act on this when we feel this? We know there's something more, but we're in this big place of resistance.
Oh, I remember that time very well. I managed to distract myself for several years, even though I knew it, I heard it, I felt it, and I kept saying, no, I don't think so. um, I finally had to say yes. I didn't, I was given a very distinct choice
Mm.
with the diagnosis of a terminal disease several decades ago. And I am as healthy as a horse now, so no worries there. And this is where, I can point to walking the talk. When we make this choice, when we make this decision, the transformation that happens is complete and absolute and affects every area of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered was two reasons why there was the resistance. One, I, I was driven by fear. I didn't know I was driven by fear. Um, so with that as the driver, the choices are pretty limited, right? We can fight, we can run, we can freeze, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one reason, is that we are operating from a system of fear, and the choices with that are limited. The other reason is, it's also linked to the fear, is we we become very attached to the identities that we've created. It doesn't actually mean that it's really who we are. And often it's actually the opposite or very different than who we are. But we create identities as young people, sometimes as very little children, out of self-preservation.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we experience a feeling of safety, and then as we get older, we experience success by living these identities, really then the conversation with ourselves becomes sort of a negotiation. And unless we're adept in having in our negotiation skills and having that conversation with ourselves, we can often just shy away from it
Mm-hmm.
because we don't know how to have that conversation. And the conversation really is about, well, I know, who I've become at this point has served me, but it no longer is serving me. And am I willing to step out of that persona and become who I really am without that persona? And for me, that was a very big question. There was no
Yeah.
VISTA bio at the time. And, master coaches and life coaches, and they did not exist. So how do you have that conversation? So it was a tough one for me. But I feel like that is, when we get to that edge, that's really what's there.
Yeah. Beautifully put. Beautifully put. It's so funny. I have the parallel for me is that yes, years, 9 years it took me because I bought a book 9 years before I finally got into it, which brought me to where I am today, put me on this journey, and that was the one of the things that began my journey. But the whole entire time I thought the answer was going to be outside of me. Um, and then when I finally got to that place where I realized that I probably hold the key, I was like, oh my God, life is hard enough. I don't want to go on some long, drawn out journey to find out who I am. Just tell me somebody. I am a doer. I will go do it. But didn't, I just had this belief that it was going to be long, drawn out, difficult, didn't know where to start, didn't even no guarantee it was going to work. Um, so so I was resisting it, and again, like you, it was health issues that finally kind of put me towards the edge, which we'll talk about in my next bullet point that I'm going to ask you. But it really, and I love how you've talked about this being basically fear and being attached to identities, and that you brought up success. So, yeah, I mean, at the time I was feeling gapingly unfulfilled, knowing there's something more for me, but not being willing to go do anything about it. My life looked beautiful on paper. And I was like, who am I to complain? Um, I had achieved the markers of success. I'm putting those in quotes. Um, with a fancy job and the nice office and the high powered suits and, respect at the upper echelons of the company and, you know, house and second house at the beach, kids, husband, nice car, like I had all that, but I had never even, but I wasn't fulfilled. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Why don't I want what I have? Why isn't that enough? What was wrong with me? Right. And then I realized that I hadn't ever decided for myself that identity. Like I didn't really, I was like a chameleon. I was always just taking on what other people's interests were. Oh, that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Um, and so then you get comfortable. And you're right. Fear is absolutely the driver. The fear of the unknown. At least I know, what's here until, and here we are going to move into this is a segue for the next part of our talk, is that time when I was finally ready to take the reins, finally ready. And that was an internal switch. Um, and for me, I remember, and I said it out loud, there was nobody home, but I said it out loud anyway. I'm like, I don't know what life I'm meant to be living, but it sure as hell ain't this one. I just knew it in my soul. I knew it wasn't this one. And I recognized at that moment that there was nothing anybody else could do for me. I had to do this for myself. I did not just like I knew I had to do this for myself, but I had to do this for myself. I had to, be that change for myself. I had to discover who I was. And also, and I'm going to let you tell your story too. My quick story is the opportunity was given to me, and I think that's because my intention was so huge, to, to have a different life. My husband just didn't wake up one day, and I was given this gift of space to find out who am I outside of the roles and responsibility of being a wife. Just that little, I just needed a little extra space and thinking time because my marriage was very difficult. And just having that space, was the opportunity that I needed. It's one of the most beautiful things that came out of a big giant tragedy, which happens for many of us. And you alluded to your story about how the choice was present. Like I feel like the universe, taps you on the shoulder. Hey, you're right. You're ready for a change. It's time to make the change. You can make this difference. And you're like, shh, I'm busy. I got other stuff to do. I'm busy. And then it like hits you with a Mack truck. So, if you feel comfortable sharing how you were, when you were finally ready to take the reins, how you knew it was time.
Well, I wasn't finally ready to take the reins. I I just like I say, but when when you're staring your own mortality in the eye, it really is game over. And in that moment, for me, what was so upsetting was not the whole death thing. It was I missed life.
Mm.
Darn it. I missed the whole ride. And I was so upset about that. That's what woke me up.
Mm.
And so I said, okay, how long do I have? And they said, well, we don't know. And I said, okay. And I just decided, I was like, well, with whatever time I had left, I was going to stop this achievement thing. And I was going to figure out how life wanted me to live.
Mm. That's beautiful.
And yeah. And so I had no idea what I was talking about, though. you know, I mean, yeah, it sounds lovely, but I'm like, okay, great. I made that decision. So now what? And then, once you make a decision, as you know, and that intention is set, the path lights up for you, right? You know this. So
Yes.
I didn't really have to do anything. It was like the first step was, the first step was there. I mean, for me, it was in the form of a voice
Mm.
that said, go to the horses. And I'm like, well, this is just, compounding itself into a really lovely day. So not only am I going to die, but now I'm going crazy, like I'm hearing voices, it's wonderful. And I was like, well, what is happening? I live in Manhattan. Like, couldn't you have told me to go to the horses when I lived in Texas? Like, you know, but of course, everything is on the path for us. So lo and behold, there was for a nanosecond in Manhattan at Chelsea Piers horseback riding. And that's where I started. And that's where I was introduced to a man who taught natural horsemanship. And I got on his horse and I felt a click. I think in that moment, I started coming back to life. And life was waiting for me and pretty excited that I'd made this decision. And, so my steps sort of went on from there and I just kind of followed my nose. And to your point, it did take me several years and many hundreds of thousands of dollars and many life experiences to finally realize what I now teach. And it is about this understanding that we actually are the key.
Mm.
And, for me, when I was facing that moment, I don't actually believe in the fear of the unknown because I don't think that the unknown really exists. Something knows it,
Mm.
right? What's unknown is me in a new moment if I do not know myself.
Oh, beautiful.
So, right. So my quest was, all right, yeah, this this next phase, however long it was going to be, looked pretty intimidating or maybe scary or any other, word I could use because I didn't know who I was without all the trappings, without all the, as you say, without, but this is who I am, right? And this is how I'm known. And that wasn't the truth. So here I was going into probably the second biggest moment of my life. The first biggest moment was probably when I first was born, right? And then here I am to face this moment, and I'm with a stranger. Like, who wants to face a moment like that with a stranger? Like, because then I have to know you so that was, like I say, that was my wake-up call. And I went, no, that's so not okay. So it was about who am I without all of that stuff. And what I love about the horses is, they're truth sayers,
Yeah.
right? They can only tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And they will show you who you are.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you what you do with that information.
Right. I love that. And my experience is the same. And the way that I, move forward with my clients is the same. There's, at the base, the foundation, the very beginnings of everything is discovering who you are outside of the paradigms and the beliefs you've been given and the roles and the responsibilities. That was the very beginning for me. And I know that's the beginning for everyone is who am I? And it, at the beginning, it was scary. And a lot of clients tell me it's scary. Like, well, what if I don't like who I find? Or what if worse, I like who I find, but all my loved ones don't like who I find? So it can really be a barrier to, but when you're being the true you and you can let go and release all of those other things that you were trying to be and who you're not, then you can show up your best self for your loved ones, your very best self, because your relationships can only ever be as good as the relationship you have with yourself. And you can't have a relationship with yourself if you don't know who you are. So I love that you brought that up. It's very beautiful. We do need to begin there. And that is a beautiful segue into our final part of our conversation today, which is, if our listeners are all done feeling unfulfilled and all done being not unconnected and they don't want to be in that never land of hoping and waiting, and they want to be moving their energy towards getting on with life and creating that life for them, the very beginning of that journey, even upstream of discovering who you are, right? The very beginning of that starts with, and we both said this today, intention. And the second thing is belief. So, wanting something or intending to have it. Martha Beck says when you go from wanting to intending something, you tip the scales in your favor markedly. Because there's intention really starts to combat that disbelief. So you might not know how, but you intend to have it. I don't know how. That's okay. I'm smart. I'll figure it out, right? But this belief is the second piece of it. On the continuum of, impossible, not bloody likely, when pigs fly down there at that end of the belief continuum, and then into the middle, you come to this place which is basically the fulcrum, and it's possible. And then you can get to likely and inevitable, but that's not even the end. The end is it's already done. The energy that comes with you when you say it's already done, that level of belief has a whole wave of peace that goes right through my body when I say that. And so when you want to begin your journey to discover yourself so that you can then create this life that you are here for, the one you're meant to be living, right? Happens when you get to that magical point, which is possible. That's that fulcrum. It's possible. And you and I are living proof, Lisa, that it's possible, because I know I'm not any smarter than any other person. I had this intention and I got to the belief point where it's possible. And that is huge, because at possible is the only place your mind, from that other end of that continuum, once you get to possible, your mind will finally start asking that question. And the question is how? How did she do it? How did he do it? How might I do it? And that is the step. And you and I are telling them how. Get to know yourself. Create this relationship with yourself by being introspective and being ready and willing to discover that loving being that you are, because that is the beginning of this path. So intention and belief are the very beginnings in my mind, because that's really what happened with me. And I know you probably have some things to say about this as well, so that our listeners and watchers can understand just the very beginnings. How can they just start? Nothing big, because remember, big, drawn out, I'm not doing that, but what's just something really small, intentional, that is a truth that people can just try on to help them move and begin their journey.
Well, I think you did mention, the accurate direction, which is you start with your intention, right? And so you can articulate the new reality that you want. This is what we call vision. So what is it exactly, right? And you can get really specific with that. And I encourage you to get specific with that. Exactly what is it? How do you want to live? What does that life look like? And then the fuel to that is the intention. To your point. So once you look at it and you go, yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Then to your point also, so now that's done. And then the hows will start to show up. And that I encourage everybody to get ready for. It's a really fun part of the ride.
It is.
And then you as the key just get to say yes or no to what shows up. Is that going to bring this new reality to life or not? Is it going to bring it to life in the way that I want? Sometimes it will show up sort of, I don't know, not quite all the way there, right? And so you get to say, close. That was really close. And what would make it exactly what I want is this. And don't be afraid of that. This is the co-creative process. And then the other part of it so you can do that and you can really get into flow. And then you can almost expect your self-preservation system to raise its hand. Yeah, but or to what you said before, Linda, like, well, what if it's worse? Like, no one ever asks what if it's better.
I know.
Everybody always says, well, what if it's worse, right? And usually I'll respond with, well, what if it's better? But we have to understand how we're wired, and that is this the brain protecting us, right? It's a survival organ. So the self-preservation is very important. And so you can have that conversation. You don't have to be afraid of that point. If something like that shows up, a yeah, but, or a, I don't know, what if a monster jumps out, and it's this horrible person, or, what if everybody leaves me, or, that kind of, whatever scary thought comes up, you can just thank your self-preservation. Thank you so much. That is an excellent question. Let me examine this. And I like to, our work is all about the truth. So I like to just ask one simple question. Is that the truth? So if we look at that question, well, what if, what if I'm someone that's horrible instead of better than what I am now? Because I've worked really hard to be this. And what if it's worse? What I've worked so hard for. And then you ask yourself the question with love and respect, was that the truth? Is that really the question?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because really, if you look at it, that's not the question, right? The question is, when I become who I was created to be in all my fullness of the glory of that, how how will I be? What is possible? And that's where you get to take the reins in that moment. And that goes back to that intention piece. And this is where you get to start to imagine and dream and use this part of your brain, right? Your imagination part of the brain. And it's a really, really critical part to shifting gears into that creative being that we all are. And spend time doing that. And if you just spend 1 minute in your imagination or in your dream time, just 1 minute, it will start to counter those yeah buts. And then you can get braver and you can get bolder. I suggest you set up a sacred space to do it or time to do it. But if that's too much, you can do it walking down the road. Just be careful, because you might really get into this new reality and forget that you're crossing the road. So
Yeah.
that would be my suggestion.
Yeah. Well, I love how you've outlined those into four areas, and I'll just touch quickly upon them again. So the first is your vision, to articulate that new reality that you want. And a lot of times what I run across with people is they're like, I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. They can't even dare to dream. So I like to have them use contrast, right? So, okay, so let's talk about how you want to feel, because you and I both know that the vision is really more about the feeling, right? Because we're trying to attract something even better probably than our vision. And we do that by how we're feeling, right? That being in alignment vibrationally with that. And so when they say, right now I feel trapped, I feel unfulfilled, I feel whatever, we're using these negative words. I help them find the antonyms. So, okay, so what would be the opposite of that? How would you love to feel? Even if you're not clear on exactly what that life is going to look like, that's okay. How would you love to feel? Well, and we can take it in segments, right? How would you love for your health to be? I would love to feel healthy and vibrant and energetic every day. Okay, beautiful. How would you love your relationships to be? I would love them to be easy and fulfilling, and I would love to feel connected. Oh, beautiful. How would you love your career to be? I would love to feel that to know that I'm doing something important in this world. Even if you can't envision who that relationship is with, or what that career is all about, or what you're doing to have that vibrant, healthy body, that's okay. So, number one, your vision can just start with the feelings that are in contrast to what you don't want. So, I love that. And I love that you said the fuel is intention. So, once you have that, you can create an intention. What I did when I was manifesting the love of my life which worked. And by the way, had that whole and thing that you talked about. That's why I was smiling. You're like, it got so far, but then it wasn't quite right. So I put an and. Actually wrote that down in my piece of on my piece of paper where I was doing it. But I used another tool. I used music. I created a
Mm.
playlist of how I was going to feel when I had that future beautiful relationship that had all the things I had listed on my yellow legal pad, right? And I didn't write about the person. I just wrote about the relationship, how easy it was, how we were growing at the same in the same ways, how much fun it was, how we were dancing in the kitchen, how we were, just taking hikes together, like all these things I just envisioned. I didn't know who this person was going to be, and I just made this playlist with all sorts of music that made me feel like I was already in this loving relationship. And that kept me aligned vibrationally, emotionally, energetically to it's already done. This is it. It's going to feel like this. The beauty of it is it did feel like that right now, even though I didn't know who that person was going to be. So that intention, you can have little tricks to help you keep that intention and get into that feeling, Um, is, as far as, when you said the house will show up, it is amazing that when your intention is so strong, like the how, when my husband just passed away in his sleep at 44 years old, that was not a how I didn't expect that. I just knew something had to change, but it wasn't like, oh, I have to become a sudden widow and single mom of three grieving adopted children. Like I didn't plan that. That was not the way I thought it was going to happen. But yet that was a how. It was an important how because there was no possible way I would be who I am today, where I am today, helping the people I'm helping today, living this purpose, the reason I'm here. If that hadn't happened, so the hows will come, and your number three is the key, right? You, me, we each get to follow these intuitive nudges when choices are put before us. If we can get into that space of feeling into the choice, what do I feel to do? And when those fears pop up, kind of put them aside for number four, to expecting those yeah buts. We know they're going to happen, but they're never truth. They're nothing more than monsters under the bed. Those are the monsters we used to deal with when we were little children, right? That we wouldn't even be able to get out of bed. I wouldn't, because there was a monster under there and he was going to suck me into oblivion, grab my ankle and pull me down, and that was going to be it. And so it kept me frozen in my tracks. But now as an adult, I know that that was not real. It was a conjuring of my mind, a conjuring of fear. So all these yeah buts that get in our way, these what ifs, I love that you brought up examine them for truth. Is it true? Can I be certain it's true? And one thing that I always like to point out is that we don't know the future. We're living in the now. We don't know the future. Because if you did, I always just say, well, tell me tomorrow's winning lottery numbers. Thank you very much, because I would like to play those today. Um, but so when we're making up a story of the future, why would we make one up with a bad ending, a sad ending? What if it doesn't work? What if that's not enough? I'm not enough. What if, right? Why would we do that? If you're going to make up the future, because we're just making it up, why wouldn't you make up this beautiful, happy story? I live a fulfilling life. I am living who I'm meant to be. I am, right? This beautiful knowledge, right? Feeling that way. Why don't you just you're making it up anyway. So set your sights on this positive thing that you already know, the thing you resist the most, this change you resist the most, discovering your true identity and living your purpose. Because you and I both know there's no more beautiful place to be, and there's no better place to be to help the planet, help each other. So this is one of my most favorite conversations I've ever had, Lisa. Um, that we've gotten to share so many beautiful things with the audience. I'm so excited that you are here and sharing your gifts with us today. Is there any last thoughts before I close up?
Oh, there's so many thoughts. There's so much more I want to share. Um, uh, so Again, I would just encourage everybody that is, that this resonates with, that just to be aware that we've got these amazing human operating systems,
Mm,
and we're really proficient in some of them, but there's so many more of them for you to discover that will give you the ability to turn that key and walk through that door to that life that you do dream of. And it is there. It is there. And it will continue to show up for you in ways that you haven't imagined yet. Um, and so that is the truth. And so I just encourage you, to live your life full out, and understand that the fear can, or the resistance can feel very strong and very real, and so can love.
mm, beautiful. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa Aire, for being on Conversations Worth Your While. I am going to put your contact information into the description of this video, so people can contact you. Um, and then what? When they contact you, what, they can get on the phone with you for a little bit?
Yeah, I would love to speak. I would love to speak with whoever would like to contact me to further the conversation.
Beautiful, beautiful. As would I. So thank you. I definitely appreciate you being here. And once again, I'm Linda Bucher, helping you to lighten your load, to unleash that bigness inside of you, and to make an impact while living a balanced, rewarding life. And I'd like to thank the audience as well. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. Please subscribe and remember to check the description where you'll find our contact information and something I call the little quiz for going big, so you can see exactly how ready you are to begin your journey of getting your gifts out into the world and living the you you're meant to be. And until next time, please make sure you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark it ignited.